Hi everyone, and welcome back to my garden. It's been a little while since I last saw you, but I decided that being mid-November it was time for a little garden tour. So I'm just going to show you where I'm at and what we've got planned in the next couple of weeks. Obviously we're well out of spring, although we've had very random weather here, having a bit of snow 2 weeks into spring, and yeah, just seeing what survived that, what didn't. And then now we're having a bit of a heat wave, so there's always a challenge in the garden, but that is gardening for you, and we've got to take it as it goes. So let me give you a quick walk around the garden, what's been built, what's planted, and what I'm planning to plant still. Okay, so my compost heaps are looking pretty good. So this one, I've just put a layer of grass on top. With the winter we had quite a lot of leaves that we put on, but with the wind has been blowing the leaves off. So I just picked everything up and put it back on, and then just put a layer of grass on to hold that. But this will now be left to ferment, is that the right word? But yeah, it'll compost down, and then hopefully by next season we'll be able to use this. This is the newer of the two, which is very quickly catching up to this one. But we're still building on this one, so we'll keep going with that one. Just we mowed the grass in here. It looks much better. There are these trees I need to cut out. There was a dead tree that we cut out over here before we started the garden, and the roots are coming up. You can see there's quite a few of them, so those need to come out. The tarp is still out for the grass. We had a little piece here that we had plastic that we've lifted now. So over here I'm going to plant some pumpkins. I started them in trays, and I need to get them out, and hopefully they'll survive. I know pumpkins don't always like being transplanted, but so I've got some heaps here. This, I just turned the soil, I've made little rounds, and then these ones over here, you'll see I've actually put in some compost already, and then I'll put grass over the top of those before I plant the pumpkins in. So over here I'm looking at doing a few more tires with herbs in. I've got the raised beds in here which are filled, and I'm starting to plant out into them. Over here I had cucumbers planted which didn't survive the snow, so I've had to replant, and I was thinking I've got 2 lettuces that I'll probably put in there. They're not looking so great, but they need to be planted out. There's a little pickle coming up, so that's at least coming up. Over here I also had beans which didn't make it, and then on the side I had cucamelons, and I managed to save one, so I've at least got one little cucamelon. So first time growing that. Then these 2 I haven't got anything planted yet. I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to get that put up without it falling, because obviously once stuff is growing on it you don't want it falling. This is going to be herbs. I've actually planted some thyme in there. I just cut everything down and covered it with grass. You'll see the stalks there, but I just cut it down to try and stop the transplant shock. So I got some plants from someone, so we'll give those a chance to go. So this box is still empty. This one I've got determinate tomatoes in there. So that's a San Marzano determinate tomato, and they're looking very good. They were about half the size, and I managed to make like a grass teepee over them, and they survived the snow. I had noodle beans here which I've had to replant because they didn't make it. Then over here I've got my brinjals. Let's just move that. So I've got 4 little brinjals there, and then I'm trying watermelons. So this one's not looking so great. So this is one variety of watermelon, and then this side here I've got a different variety. So the idea of planting them up here was so that they'll go over the side and then spread out. Obviously they spread like pumpkins, I am aware of that, but I just wanted to put the tops of them in here, so we'll see how these little guys get going. So there's 4 of them, and the idea is for them to spread out all the way around. You'll see that the pumpkins are made sure they were far enough away to give them space to spread and these space to spread as well. So this area here, I've actually got the water pipe that carries on. I just moved it away to cut the lawn, but there's a water pipe that goes there. Then in the corner of the garden there, I've got a big tractor tire which I want to put here, and I was thinking of putting strawberries in it, but I'll see. I actually might put mint or something else in there. And then this section here, I actually want to do a Ruth Stout potato bed eventually. I didn't have time to start that this season because of me extending my current garden, so Rome wasn't built in a day, but we'll get there. But that's the idea with this space here. So these 2 beds here are all potatoes. Those ones were planted probably about 2 weeks before these were. These were not actually planned for here, but where we were going to plant, we ended up having more seed potatoes that we kept from last season, and so I just ended up, I had the bed here, so I filled it up with the potatoes that we've got. So there are quite a few different varieties. These ones on the end here are Blaugeller, which is a purple potato variety. I just need to get to the tags to see which way around these ones are. So these are, yeah, so that's the Blaugeller. These ones here are Almundo, which is supposed to be a faster or a short season growing potato. Then these were 2 other varieties that we tried, so they're not massive, but Elverstone russet. And then Innovator is these ones here. So all supposed to be good all-round potatoes for baking, chips. Our family is very big into our potatoes, so yeah, all our basically all your general use varieties go well. So here I've also got Almundo. As I say, we bought a big box of seed potatoes that were supposed to be split, so these ones and the ones on that end there are the same variety. And then there were a few, yeah, these are all Almundo, yeah, as I say, and then the Blaugeller ones there. These couple here are actually, I'm not quite sure what they are. They're either Bikini or Ronaldo, which were left from last season. I'm just not 100% sure which one, but they're growing very nicely. So I'm going to go back this way. So this bed here, I haven't got anything planted yet. I need to reweed it and pull the grass out, and then that little section there I need to just top up with compost, and then I'll put grass on top. So I've got tomatoes there. This section here hasn't been planted yet either, and I've literally just got the end of the bed there to do, but I've started covering it just for the weed growth. We're really struggling with this grass. I don't know if it's called inky grass or what, but it comes up terribly. It makes like a little, almost like an onion base, but it comes up everywhere. I mean, this bed has been weeded in the 2-3 weeks since it was planted, and look at the grass already. So if anyone has got any tips on how to get rid of this grass, I mean, look here, it's just comes up everywhere. So yeah, any tips, please leave them in the comments below so that I know what to do with them. As I say, so this lot I'll finish weeding, put compost down, finish weeding that lot, cover it with grass. Okay, so my tomatoes, which I'm very stoked about, getting these to survive the snow. So basically they were quite small. A lot of them were about that size when it snowed, and I actually just took the grass and I steeped it up over the whole plant. I just made like these little heaps, and it worked very well. So I just gave it, basically within 24 hours the snow had melted. So I just gave it a couple of days because it was obviously still cold because of the snow on the Drakensberg. We get the wind from that, and I didn't want to get them wind burnt. So basically then I just took the grass off, which is basically what I put here. But very stoked that these have survived. So these first 4 here are black crim. Then these next ones here are brandywine pink, which has got like, they call it like a potato leaf. You'll see the leaf on the actual tomato looks very different from other tomatoes. So I grew these last season and they grew very well. So all the tomatoes that are planted here are indeterminate. Now indeterminate is basically it doesn't have a determined height. So I will be putting in strings which will go up to the poles here, which will help them grow up further. They'll keep growing up as far as you allow them, and then we'll prune the bottom of them. Because something I learned last season with tomatoes is if you leave the soil bare and it rains or you're watering it, the water bouncing off the bare soil up onto the plants makes it more susceptible to getting diseases. So quite a lot of people lost their tomatoes last season because they, as I say, they got diseased and they just, they frotted. So I managed to semi-save mine, but the lesson I learned was that you must cover the ground, which is why there's grass here, not only for weeds and to obviously help with water retention, but particularly because of the tomatoes to help that bounce off of the soil back onto the plants. You'll see these are also pruned nicely, so I'm trying to make sure they're well off the ground, the leaves. And then my basil is probably about that big, so once the basil is ready I'll come and put the basil in between these plants because they companion plants quite well. So this little guy is not doing so great, but he is still there. So we'll try and keep getting him to grow. This one here actually snapped off with the wind, between the snow and the wind and all of that. So I've got a spot there. That one snapped off as well where the little piece of dropper is, but it actually started sprouting again, so I left it. So this variety here is Plana Penjar, which is a new variety that I'm trying. It's an Italian variety. Also, I think it's not a paste tomato, but it's basically the idea behind these is at the end of the growing season that you, if you've still got fruit, green fruit that is growing, you actually pull the whole plant out, turn it up, hang it upside down, and it'll continue ripening. And you use it basically almost like, it's good for like sun-dried tomatoes. So you dry the tomatoes for storage, and then you use them like that for cooking. So very keen to see how these work, and try those this season. So there's nothing else in the rest of the bed. I've still got some Roma tomatoes that are growing, so I'll put a couple in here, and then I'll see what I put in the end of that bed. This bed also needs weeding and then to be covered with grass, so I still got quite a bit in the grass bale that I got. Just a note, if you guys do get bales from a farmer to cover it, make sure that they've basically de-seeded, that they've been through the combine and harvested the seed. You'll still always get some seed there, but don't take a full seed bale to put in your garden. Otherwise you're going to end up with that seed growing like a Boeing because of your compost, and you're going to spend your life weeding out grass. So I made that mistake with teff in my garden when I was still living in town, and yeah, I spent my life pulling out teff grass. So these couple here is my leeks. So those will keep going more towards next winter. They'll be good and ready to harvest for potato leek soup. So I'm looking forward to that. This empty section here is where I've been harvesting my garlic. So I've been quite stoked with the garlic that I've got out. I've still got 3 varieties in here. So I've got the giant garlic that's very close to harvest time. Then this one here is the Gaia's Joy, which is also getting pretty close, but it's looking good. So these 3 varieties I've already taken out. And then my Kabar I've still got here, which is also getting pretty close. So in South Africa we have our growing seeds, and you basically ideally plant your garlic in March, and then now in November is when we start harvesting garlic. So just as a side note on the garlic that I've been harvesting, so this is bought garlic, and as you can see it's starting to sprout. Now in South Africa, obviously it's now the wrong time of the season for planting garlic, so please don't get excited when you see garlic sprouting thinking you're going to plant it now in November and it's going to grow and become a great garlic harvest. The reason I say that is that this garlic sprouting now, it's actually the wrong time of the year, which means this is actually imported garlic. So it's come from the Northern Hemisphere, because everyone in the Northern Hemisphere is now planting their garlic because it's their season for it. So it will grow, but you're never going to get a head of garlic like this from this garlic that if you plant this garlic now, because it's the wrong hemisphere, and as I say, the seasons are wrong. Basically it's not going to give you a great harvest like you would with normal garlic that's been planted at the right time of the year. So just a heads up on that. Then over here I've actually planted some popcorn mealies again, and then I'm actually doing the 3 sisters here again. So I've planted beans by each mealie or popcorn mealie, and then I've put some squash in between, just 2 or 3 squash plants in between, which is basically the ground cover for those who aren't familiar with the 3 sisters method. So the mealies are basically, they'll grow. Your runner beans, particularly runner beans, are planted next to the mealie, so they give the mealie nitrogen to help it grow. And then the mealie basically is the beans go up the stalk of the mealie, basically so that you don't have to stake them and provide something for them to go up. And then the squash, the idea of the squash is that the leaves cover the ground, which helps to reduce weeds, etc. So the 3 basically complement each other, and if you've got a small growing space, it actually works very well. Then you'll see my walkways over here. This one and that one are looking a little shocking. The weed mat that I got didn't last quite as well as I'd hoped it would, but it definitely does help. So I'll be replacing this one and that one there, because it definitely does help. I mean, those ones there are relatively new still, but they do help. So over here I've got sugar peas, so it's a nice sweet pea. This first section are going off already, so they've been going for a while. And then this lot here was the newer ones that I've planted. And then I've got spinach here, which is looking shocking. It's actually started bolting. But I have potato beetle. If you see these little guys here, which are bad news in the garden. You can see how badly they've eaten the leaves and how bad they are looking. So I'll probably, I'm not sure if cutting these down properly will help in that they them sprout again, but I want to chop them down before I spray for the potato beetle, just because they're going to be hiding everywhere and my chickens will love that. So here I've got what's left of my carrots. They're also starting to bolt, so I need to get them out. I have pulled some. Wasn't a huge success. I got them planted too late in the autumn, so they never really grew much during the winter. They've kind of like gone crazy now as it started warming up, but I want to actually plant some more and pull these up. And I've got some more spinach here. This bed I actually haven't got quite a lot going on at the moment, but again, the spinach that's bolting. You can see the little where it's making flowers, and it's also full up of potato beetles. So if you have a look at these, you can see people mistake them for ladybugs, but you can see on this picture how different they are. I'll actually inlay a picture of a proper ladybug so that you can see. So even my young spinach is ailing because of them. So here I've got nothing planted. This is the remnants of broccoli rape, and then over here I've got some broccoli planted, which is also near the end. I planted those out thinking it was kale, and it's actually ended up being broccoli, the same as this. So I'm going to, because that actually I got from my mom, because it's seeded in the garden, and there's a whole lot that came up, and the broccoli and the kale were right next to each other, so I thought it was kale, but I'll get some kale planted, and we'll just leave these be and harvest as it goes. So these ones, the variety makes like a little floret like this, which you will then pick to eat, and then it just keeps making florets. So as opposed to broccoli that makes a head, which you basically harvest the head and it's pretty much done, these ones you can harvest these florets and they keep producing florets which you harvest. So you get quite a bit more off the plants, which is very awesome. And then my onions, I'm quite stoked about my onions. I had to replant them because the first lot that I planted, they barely came up. You'll actually see this one here, which is so much bigger than all the others, is from the first planting, and then all these others are from the second planting. They are potentially too close together, so I'm not going to get the most massive bulbs, but it's my first time really planting onions, and yeah, so quite stoked. So also again, there's 3 different varieties here. Got the Australian brown on the left, Creole in the middle, and the Texas grano on the outside there. The Creole, I've tried growing Creole before and I've struggled, so I'm very stoked at how it's come out. Then over here I've got my beetroot, which also I planted in autumn, a bit late, and between the cold and the mouse birds which were eating them off, they didn't really do anything. So what's left here is basically what started just going crazy when it warmed up. So I'm going to look at pulling these out. I'll probably plant something different here and plant beetroot more in the new section, that side, just so that I'm not planting the same things in the same spots all the time. But so yeah, I need to get more beetroot planted there. Then on this side, this little patch of onions here is multiplying onions. So they're very rewarding. You basically plant one bulb. This lot's actually quite big. So you plant one and then it splits off like garlic and makes a whole lot more. Then you'll harvest those, and then you've got smallish onions that you can use for pickling, which are quite nice. So interestingly, that how big these ones are compared to those, because they were planted at the same time. Then over here I've got my Egyptian walking onions. So again, first time I'm growing these, I was very intrigued about the Egyptian walking onions. So the idea here is that these heads, basically those are your little onions, also again for pickling, your little cocktail onions. But this is supposed to get top heavy and then fall down into the soil, and then it starts another plant. That's how they pretty much multiply. You can see this one here is already getting to touching the ground. So I must just remove the weed, and then that'll plant itself into a new one. So very, very intrigued with these. And it's actually, the flowers, if you want to call them that, are very interesting. So yeah, first time growing these, and we'll see how those go, and I'm going to enjoy the little cocktail onions coming from that. And then these last little few is I've planted Cape gooseberries, so looking forward to those. They're also covered in potato bugs. Lots and lots of potato bugs. Potentially the quicker you nip it in the bug with a potato bug, nip it in the bud, sorry, with potato bugs, the better, because obviously the more there are, the harder it is to get rid of them. So this little guy is making its first flower, so that means gooseberries are on the way. That's awesome. And then on this side here I've got celery that's planted. That's just a weed. But yeah, I've got celery planted here. And again, just covering it for the weeds, and so that it doesn't dry out so badly. And then my plum tree, I've got a nice massive plum tree in my garden, which produces beautifully. You'll see. Look at all these plums. I don't know if it's too dark now, but look at all those plums. So looking forward to those getting ready. So those will start being ready now December, January. We'll get that fruit off. So yeah, that's pretty much the garden as it stands at the moment. There's still a lot of work and a lot of stuff that needs to be planted out. The weather's been very random, as I said. It's been hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, and a lot of stuff I started early and it's been in trays, and I want to plant it out, and then we get a cold spell, so I've been putting it off, but I need to get the stuff in the ground now because the season is running. So quite a lot of space to plant. So in the next couple of weeks the aim is to get as much planted out as you can. I've got strawberries, I want to get my herb garden going. A lot of those are in bags. Get everything out of bags because it just grows better when it's in the ground. So looking forward to that. And then obviously the new beds, I also need to sort out water pipes, the drip irrigation like I've done in the first ones. I need to catch up these other beds with watering or a water system. And then yeah, that's my new garden for this season. So pretty much double what it was last season, because I had 5 beds last season, and then I've made 5 more, and then plus the raised boxes, which I've been wanting to do for a while. So the raised boxes are what's basically the middle point in the garden. I decided instead of just making it a functional garden straight through, that I would put some visual interest in and put some boxes in, which I think are going to work great for a bit of diversity and in growing. So So that's pretty much my mid-November tour for you for now. As I say, once I've actually got more in the ground and planted or all of that and planted out, then I'll give you guys another little quick tour to catch you up, and then yeah, as the season gets going, everything is just going to explode, and then there's going to be lots to show you. So looking forward to sharing that with you. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.